Hey everybody, it's me Amanda with Once in a Wild, and I have special guest Inga on the show today. Welcome back to another Once in a Wild monthly live stream, and we're going live across social media. Whatever social media is your favorite, we've got all the things going on for the most part. I'm pretty sure we're on all of them. I can't think of any extras that we're not on right now. But if you guys want to stay tuned, we've got some animals coming on the show and a special guest human as well, and myself, your trusty guide Amanda. We're back live, and I think it's time to go ahead and just get started. Again, welcome back to another Once in a Wild monthly live stream. Once in a Wild Wednesday. It is Wednesday, and happy Wednesday to everybody. Late happy spooky season, I guess. I hope you guys had a great October. And happy November. I can't believe it's already November. It's crazy. Texas weather has been up and down, but we're finally getting some cooler weather, which is exciting. Now, if you guys have never been here before, my name is Amanda. This is Inga, my special guest today. But I'm always here for Once in a Wild Wednesday, and this is Once in a Wild, where we are a mobile zoo based in South Texas, and we're in San Antonio to be specific, but we can travel all over the place for the most part. Nothing too crazy, but we also go virtual to those of you that may be outside of our bubble of travel. But we are in San Antonio. We are a mobile zoo, so we're an educational company that has animals for all sorts of different classroom programs, even birthday parties, nursing homes, really anything at all. The sky's the limit for programming with our animals, and we have something for everyone. We've got furry animals, feathery animals, scaly, creepy crawly, slimy, you name it, we have something for you. So let us know if you're interested in that. But today is a special guest live stream, and Inga is actually back again. So hello, Inga. Why don't you introduce yourself and say hello to our audience? I know your audience knows you.
Well, hello. Thank you, Amanda. I'm so happy to be back. So we were figuring it was 2021 was the last time I was here.
I guess so.
And I feel like if I'm in the studio again, I'm like, oh, this looks so familiar. And like, yeah. And you guys take such good care of the animals. Like you could never tell. Like I walk in and it's like, this smells like a house. It doesn't smell.
It is
like
a house.
So, yeah.
But absolutely, yeah. I appreciate the compliment. We get that compliment all the time, that it smells really clean, that it looks really clean. And I am always so like overwhelmed with that compliment, because I'm like, yay, I'm so glad. Because we really do try hard, and we try to take good care of our animals and good care of our living space, because our animals do live with us as well. That is a long-term goal, though, of Once in a Wild anyway, is to have a visitable site. So somewhere for field trips to come out and see us in person, and not necessarily have to go see you. But that is where we're at now. So that's what we do, as you know, for classrooms and all sorts of situations. But Inga is excited to be back, to see the animals, but also to talk about what you do and what's going on this season. And I'll just let you talk about that a little bit first before we forget.
Yes, right. Okay, so I want to say, so we love having Once in a Wild as a partner, because you guys come to our School Discovery Day events. And so that's what I'm super excited to talk about. So if you visit our website, SAChartermoms.com, and you see the tab for School Discovery Days, these are events that we host so that families can research what schools are the right fit for their kids. We have like, we always go to a fun place, our next event is at Confluence Park, and then that's November 11th. Then in January we're going to be at the Dooseum.
Exciting! We were just there.
I love the Dooseum, and we're taking over the whole museum. Like, so if you come to our event, you can see the whole Dooseum for free.
Super cool. Yeah. Where can everybody find the information in case they can't memorize it?
Okay, so
I'm sure you have a website and social media, right?
Yes. So on social media, we're at SAChartermoms, and the post about these events is pinned, so it's like right on top. And then on the web, on the web we're SAChartermoms.com. And there's a tab for School Discovery Days, and that's got all
I'm sure we have put it in our descriptions as well. Ricky worked on prepping the live stream for us, so I'm sure it's either there, or he can leave a comment down below, because he's our moderator today, or anybody on your end as well, because we're over on your Facebook today, which is so exciting. Well, cool. So there's 2 more of those School Discovery Days happening, right? Just 2 or more?
There's more. So we have
more.
There's
Sorry.
5. There's 5 total in the whole series.
Okay,
we
cool.
had one already, and of course, Once in a While was there.
We were there.
Right?
Yep. Yes. A couple of our critters
down at the Green Line, and then so this fall, Confluence Park. And then we take a little break for the holidays, and then there's 3 in the spring. So it's January, February, March.
Cool,
Dooseum
I see.
is January 20th. And then we're going to near where the Spurs play. We're going to be at Second Baptist Church. So it's near, it's in the arena district.
I remember that place. Yep.
And so that's February 3rd.
Okay.
And then March 2nd, we're at Hemisphere, which is also a really popular spot.
So it's all the way till March. Okay. Yeah. I did not understand that. I thought there was only 2 left. Very cool. Well, good. Even better.
Yeah.
Well, so what can people like kind of expect at the events? And then we'll talk about what you do specifically.
Right. So at the events, so we want families to be able to interact with a lot of schools in one day. So
they're all vending there.
Yeah. So each school has a table or a booth, and then like a family can come and ask. Well, actually, we give every family like a scavenger hunt sheet, and so it's got all the names of the schools. They need to get a stamp for a table, then they can enter a raffle $100 gift card. But if it's an icebreaker, so you go up to the table and say, "Hey, tell me about your school. Like, what is School of Science and Technology? What is Promesa? What is Royal? What is Prelude?" And some of these smaller schools, like these new charter schools, have been opening a lot in the last 10 years, and families might not have heard of these schools, but they offer really amazing programming. And like some of them have, like I mentioned, Royal, like they have a STEAM curriculum, right? Which is so like they need to have once in a while come out, right? Because they all offer STEAM programming, right? And it gets kids really engaged. So
STEAM aligned, TEKS aligned, SEL as well. So we fit right in with most schools. So but especially charter schools, because I think it's a good fit.
What I love learning about what's happening at charter schools and sharing about it is because each school is so unique, and then it's like I see the teachers get super excited, I see the students get super excited about, because they're doing things that they're like, yeah, I could see myself doing this for real, and they want to do more of it. They want to specialize on what they're really interested in.
Super cool. I think hands-on is super important. Also, it's good to I think it's good personally growing up knowing what your options are. There's so many options. You don't have to be XYZ. If you like animals, you don't have to be a vet. If you like science, you don't have to be an astronaut. You know what I mean? You can do so many things. I would be terrified to go to space. So no, thank you. Some people, awesome, go for it. But there's not that many astronauts out there, and there's a reason for that. It's kind of dangerous. But anyway, so I hope that makes any sense. But it's good to know your options. I mean, especially nowadays, there's so many options for all of those really cool careers. Even if you're an artist, graphic design, mathematician, whatever it may be.
Yeah,
there's so many things. Teacher
kids to dream big. Like my daughter's in middle school, and like she actually has a class they call career explorations. And, like they had to like practice writing a resume and stuff. But, like,
so important.
Yeah, and they even learned about budgeting. So it's like,
oh my gosh, yes. I wish I learned that. I'm terrible at that.
Right. It's like, well, work hard, because if you want that kind of career to have that kind of budget, then you have to do the preparation.
I didn't know they taught that sort of stuff nowadays. I'm so out of the loop. I don't have children, so I don't know. I have stepkids that are older, and I went to private school K through 12, so I'm a little out of the loop from a long time ago. So
yeah, well, it varies a lot. I mean, I think some schools are like, well, we're just going to cover the basics, and then other schools it's like, hey, what do we really need for kids to succeed? Like, not like there's schools that will track their alumni while they're in college, and they'll say, oh, you're going to college in Pennsylvania. Guess what? We have other alumni, at this nearby college, or other alumni at your school. So if you're, because it happens, like maybe they're the first in their family to go to college,
right? Totally.
And they're like, do I even belong here?
Right.
Or they're like, they're in the Northeast, and they're like, I don't know where to buy asadero. Like, what do I do? And then they need like somebody to hook them up, right? And say, hey, it's okay, you belong here. Or like, hey, you're having trouble studying. Let's go to the study center, and they'll teach you about outlining.
So important.
And, we'll get you through this.
Because and everybody's different too. It's not like we're robots. Like I wish sometimes that we were just like formulated, but that's what makes life fun. But it's just like animals. I mean, I see it all the time with our creatures. Every single animal individual, even if they're the same species, they're all different. They all thrive different ways. Maybe some of them aren't really good at making appearances in classrooms, and that's okay. It's the same way with humans too. We're all the same. So definitely something I would have appreciated growing up. But that being said, I was actually pretty lucky going to private school, and then getting into 2 different colleges and things like that. How many charter schools are there in this town? Do you know?
That's a good question. Okay, so
or roughly
on our website, so I'm trying to keep track of it because so we cover schools of choice. So most of them are what are called open enrollment public charter schools. They're tuition free. They're run by nonprofits and they contract with the state. Okay, sure. Then there's also the in-district charter schools. So schools like San Antonio ISD, Edgewood ISD, East Central, like they have like schools that are open enrollment. So you don't have to live in SASD, but if you love project-based learning, you can go to ALA or, they have all these options. So if you add up all of those, these tuition-free open enrollment schools of choice, 177.
Oh, well, there you go. You did have a number.
Yeah, I do have a number. Yes.
Well, that's a lot of options for the kids too. And that's all the way through high school?
Yes. Yes. Pre-K. So the schools we cover as young as pre-K 3.
Okay.
All the way up to 12th grade.
Very good. That's awesome. That was another curiosity I had. I'm trying to think of any other questions I had from before, but I mean, maybe they didn't catch the previous show. And if you didn't, please watch the old show back in 2021. That'd be fun to rewatch. But let everybody know how this got started, where you come from, etc.
Right.
Your origin.
Yeah. So no, I'm actually originally from California, but I've lived in Texas since high school. So I love. Okay. Yeah. I love. I came
in San Antonio or
in San Antonio. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I came here.
You're one of us then.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And then I thought I was supposed to be a lawyer. I went to law school, got licensed, and then realized like, oh my gosh, I'm really unhappy working in a law firm. So
sure.
I was working part time at a university. Met my husband, started a family, and then realized that so by the time our son was 3.5, he was diagnosed as being autistic. And then I realized, okay, this is going to be a harder journey to get him what he needs. So but I'm not giving up. Like I have faith in him. So that's when I started like really researching what's happening in schools. And meanwhile, some friends of mine in the philanthropy world, they were helping to bring charter schools to San Antonio that were already successful in other states. And so I was talking to my friend, I was like, hey, what do you need? What do you need help with? He's like, well, we need help telling parents about this. Cause even I had written a term paper in college about school choice and I still had questions like, well, what's the enrollment area?
I think it's so complicated.
It is.
Even me going to college when I was first out of high school, it was so complicated. I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing at all. And my parents both went to college.
And we're expecting families to figure this out, even for very young kids. Yeah. So whenever I'm trying to design our offerings, I always put myself back in the shoes of me in 2011, being like, I'm scared. My child has this diagnosis and I'm being told no. All these different places. People are telling me, oh, your son he'll never do this or this. I'm like, I don't accept that answer. Yeah. He's going to do all these things.
Good for you.
But being scared and it started as just I was like, oh, I'm going to learn WordPress. I'm going to I read mom blogs. I'm going to create a mom blog, but about education.
Gotcha.
Because that way it's not scary. The newspaper can be kind of intimidating, right? Or it's all about the controversy. And we're trying to provide just things that are helpful. And we just want people to trust what we're saying. We're not political one way or another. Gotcha. We're not trying to steer people towards a particular type of school. But we'll give you the tools and then you figure it out. You find, and it's you need to know about quality, are they teaching reading and writing and math? Are they teaching those essential things? And we'll talk about TEKS, right? We'll talk about TEKS. But also it's think about all the different animals and all the different personalities, all the different needs. Kids are like that. And so you need to know your kid and then go get the vibe, find out what the school's like. But going to different schools to all these tours is really time consuming. If you come to School Discovery Day, you can talk to 25, 30, 35 schools. So going to their booth, it's not the same as going on campus.
Of course, but
you can't go to 35 schools in one day. You
can narrow it down a lot faster.
Yeah,
that's great. That's a great idea. It takes me back to looking for colleges. I pretty much knew what colleges I wanted when I first went to college. But fun fact about me, I went to college for something completely different than I do now. I went to college for fine art and photography, and I was going to be in that world. And then I realized it's not really what I wanted to do for a living once I got into the job. I really love photography. I love fine art, but as far as doing it for work, it kind of took the joy out of it for me. And I was just like, oh, what do I do? And so in the meantime, I actually started working for vet clinics. I was pet sitting. I was helping train horses. I was doing all that stuff. I always loved animals from birth, really. Going to SeaWorld, going to zoo, thank goodness for my parents taking me there and kind of nurturing my love of nature. But I never really, I guess I just didn't think that I wanted to have a job doing that at first for some reason. I don't know why. But I knew that I loved it. But when I was doing photography kind of like on the side at the same time and also working at a vet clinic, I was like, you know what? I think this is actually where I need to like kind of backtrack a little bit. However, vet clinic wasn't what I wanted to do either. So I was like, what do I do? I don't know so I was in like a crisis for the longest time trying to discover myself, right? And this, I was like, what, 18, 19, 20. So it's perfectly normal, but it's frustrating at the same time. And when you have, you kind of think you want something and it's not what you expected, that's very disappointing. So eventually I went back to school for zoology and I went to a totally different school all the way in Florida. So that was a very like almost like a trade school for zookeepers essentially. Thank goodness I did that because I was able to get the jobs that I really wanted after that. So it's super important. So don't be discouraged out there. If you start one way and you change your mind, that's perfectly fine. It's not the end of the world. It's going to be okay. Because that was really frustrating for me.
There's like niches and specializations out there that we can't even imagine. Like, so, like I've always known I loved writing and I loved organizing my thoughts, expressing myself and like persuasive writing. And so now I get it. It's like I went to law school because I like research and persuasive writing, but I don't like being this us versus them, the being a zealous advocate. That's the part that didn't work.
I can't think of a more competitive field than law, which is such a shame.
And people have told, or like they would tell me like, oh, being a writer, it's like so hard to break into, but like the world has changed. Like the barriers aren't there anymore.
Right.
So like if there's somebody who's like an aspiring filmmaker, it's like, great, start a YouTube channel or, start a podcast.
Pick up your phone and start filming stuff.
Exactly. Right. And like, nobody told me I couldn't do this, so I just did it. And then now, like when I talk to charter school people from other cities, they're like, "We need a charter moms in our city." I'm like, "Well, I'm kind of busy right now, but I'll get back to you."
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, it's funny how like I don't know, like the places you think you'll be and then where you end up being so different a lot of the time. And that's okay. That's life. But I remember just feeling very lost until I started doing some research on like, if I want to do this, where do I go to school? Like, this is what I want to do. Let's start there. Let's start backwards and figure out where's the maybe the fastest way to get there and also the most success rate. So what I found out was that Santa Fe College Teaching Zoo, which is where I went, it's just not in Santa Fe. It's actually in Gainesville, Florida, which is the same city as the University of Florida, of course. But it's kind of like a college like nearby. It's a smaller college, but they have this little zoo that they turn into a teaching zoo. So, I mean, it's like perfect, right? Yeah. So, I mean, it was a big move. It was a lot of faith. But what I researched was if you pass the program, you will get jobs. So, and it was like a 2.5 to 3 year program, depending on which little things that you picked. So I was like, that sounds great. That's a lot faster than a 4-year degree, So, and since I already had another degree, it wasn't really, I mean, it's basically, kind of mushed into one. So some of the classes still counted, thank goodness. It wasn't a waste of my time. But anyway, so I kind of suggest that if you guys are ever, it's the same kind of thing that you guys are doing, but maybe for college, like look to the career that you want, or at least something like the bubble of careers, but you can always change your mind. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, and like,
never too late.
Listen to yourself when you get that like flow feeling of like you realize that when you were with animals,
that's where I felt. Yeah. That's where I felt. And even in the animal career path that I had, it wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do either. It was like, okay, vet stuff. I feel like I'm good at this, but is it my passion? No, I don't want to be in the medical field. Okay. And then I started volunteering at zoos. And that's when I started realizing, oh, this is kind of more up my alley, And then I started working at SeaWorld. And that was actually the aha, like, okay, I get to talk about animals. It's a very, very positive and upbeat environment to work. It's a very happy environment. So that's where I felt more comfortable. I kind of like the theme park world, but that's also really hard work. So I ended up opening Once in a Wild after about 5 more jobs, which is also hard work, but different.
Entrepreneurship is hard. Yeah,
it definitely is. As you know, yes, I know. Yeah. It never ends really, but at least we get to kind of make the rules, and I can kind of shape it into what we want. So
when you mentioned about volunteering, like that's
super important.
We talk about that in the Facebook group sometimes.
Awesome.
Because it's when people will say, well, can I ask a question if it's not directly about charter schools? Like, yeah, sure, you can ask about camps, you can ask about childcare. You need a doctor, sure. Anything kid related, parenting related, but parents will ask like, hey, my and sometimes it starts with like, oh, my kid needs service hours, but like what you hope is that it turns into like, hey, they tried this, and they found
so important.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing there's a lot of hands-on, activities, programming, things like that at charter schools, which is so important. And that's what I always tell the kids too. They're like, what can I do now? I'm 10. What can I start doing? I'm like, well, when you get a little bit older, you can start volunteering, with your parents' permission and everything. There's a lot of animal shelters that will let you come and help. There's camps you can go do. I remember doing like SeaWorld camp and stuff like that, and that helped me, kind of fall in love with animals. So there's got to be something, but I'm sure you know more about that than I do for the little one. But yeah,
I know some, and then I rely on the group. So we crossed 12,000 members in the group. Yeah. So the collective wisdom of 12,000.
Well, great.
Very active San Antonio parents. Yeah. Well,
that's great. So, tell everybody again, like what you guys actually provide. Like what? So if I'm lost and I'm looking for a school for my kids, they go to your website and they're like, help. So what happens?
Right. So the most popular part of our website is this big list of schools. So it's
perfect.
It's alphabetical list. And that's like, hey, there's a lot more out there than you realize. But even that gets to be overwhelming because there's so many schools.
True.
So we have some kind of quick
start
resources, right? So part of it is understanding the timeline. And then also understanding like what's the difference between like, a charter school versus private school versus traditional public school. Understand that. And then understanding the different learning models, like which ones are going to have the most hands-on learning, which ones are going to have the most like liberal arts or the most fine arts, or which ones have like, this one's an all-boys school or an all-girls school, or these are very culturally affirming schools, right? Like great for, Latino
and of course
culture.
Their area where they live. I would assume there's a distance factor and things like that. Well, cool.
Yeah.
And is this all San Antonio or surrounding areas or everywhere?
so we cover kind of the San Antonio metro area. So I'd say up to New Braunfels. We've got families in Bandera, families in like Lytle, Post, I don't know, kind of, but so most of the charter schools are, a lot of them are within Loop 410 actually, and then not as many in like the outside 1604. There's a few, but they go where the kids are. So
do you have any favorite schools?
Well, I guess my own kids go to school of science and technology.
You're like, no,
it's very hands-on. It's like
which one is it again?
Great for my kids. So it's called the School of Science and Technology, or SST, and they have multiple campuses. But very hands-on. And like for my son, like so my kids were doing like after-school coding classes and learning about computer science.
And that's something I'm just like, coding, what? But that's so normal now for
Yeah.
Well, that's where the money is.
They're studying games, right? Games
true.
Such a great introduction because like, you like gaming. Yeah. You want to make a game?
Which is so, I think it's appealing, but I have no idea. I'm so out of the loop.
So like we were doing,
that's great.
we were doing this outside of school. I'm like, wait, why don't we do this in the school day? There's schools that do this. And so, and then as it happens, like they have so many pathways and so many clubs and so many conferences. So get this, my daughter has joined 4 robotics clubs. Wow. So they have robots that fly. They have underwater robots. They have the robot from a kit. And then they have this like gigantic robot. It's like the high school robot, but she's a middle schooler, but she gets to kind of understudy.
How old is she?
So she is 13. She's in 8th grade.
Aww.
Yeah. But she's found her thing.
And your son, how old is he?
So he is 16. He's an 11th grader. So we're thinking about the college stuff. But he loves UTSA. So birds up.
Good.
Right?
And
he loves architecture because he joined so architecture and construction. There's one day they got to visit a site that had all the heavy equipment. He got to like,
try it out.
Try out the heavy equipment.
Get his hands on stuff at least.
Yeah, and they said, cool. He didn't seem nervous at all. He's like, yeah, I belong here. Yes, I should be driving this giant orange thing.
Terrifying. No, it's actually pretty cool. That's awesome. I have nothing else to say about that.
No, but I think they get such great experiences there. So that's what I'm really grateful for. But they were at Great Hearts. That provides a really good fun. It's the
school they're at. Is it all levels or is it
they even have some campuses have pre-K, but like they're at a middle school, high school campus, but there's an elementary middle school that feeds into it.
Okay, cool.
See,
I went through pre-K through 12 school, so that's what I'm used to.
Right.
I know it's not normal, but
right.
Yeah,
In some ways the charter schools like there might be only 400, 500 students on a campus
Mm-hmm.
at a charter school, and so like everybody gets to know each other, and there's like mentorships between the older kids and the younger kids,
Mm-hmm.
and like the teachers know
it's almost like a
everybody.
Montessori style,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean,
like,
more or less.
yeah, but like that close knit feeling.
I like that.
I experienced culture shock coming to Texas, going to a big comprehensive high school, and being like, I
would not even know.
This is crazy. Like I don't know. Yeah, like
Nope.
I was like, I'm just gonna hold on, get my diploma, and I didn't feel like I belonged. And yeah.
I even the colleges I went to SAC for the first degree, San Antonio College, hey, which was fine, but that was even kind of big for me. Like I was fine. Like I'm not shy. I'm fine. I can navigate, but I feel like I was so lucky to have a small community and know everyone in my whole school, K through 12. That was pretty cool. And my mom taught there, so I knew all the teachers and everything. You think that I would be like favored, but no. No, it was very fair. No, but it was just a good community, very safe, which that's unfortunately a concern nowadays. But I didn't ever remember feeling unsafe at school ever, which is great. And then going off to SAC was like, oh, this is fine. I just got through it. But man, going back to zoo school, it was hard. But it was definitely like okay, this is what I need. I need a smaller community. I need my people, to help nurture my career path. So. Well, very cool. Well, awesome. Shall we meet some animals and then talk about them? And then, of course, you're welcome to interject with whatever you want to say. I think it's time to meet a lizard friend. So all the animals we brought you guys to see today out there in TV land and in live stream land. Hey, once again, this is Amanda and Inga today. We're on Once in a While Wednesday and over on your channel too, SACharter Moms. Awesome. But we have some animals for the animal show. There's got to be animals on the animal show. So I think it's time to meet a lizard first. So we brought 3 predators today. They're all killers in nature anyway, but all of course a nice animal. And all of our animals at Once in a While Inga are all safe to come into classrooms, safe to go into most people's homes and things like that. If they're animals that you guys can't touch, we can touch them and just keep them at a safe distance. But this here is Dina, and Dina is formerly known as Dino, like the dinosaur, but we have now discovered that Dina is a girl. So we changed her to Dina. We're at least maybe 85 to 90% sure that she's a girl because of her size. But this is a Savannah monitor. You're welcome to kind of touch her on the back if you would like. She's actually a pretty chill Savannah monitor. A predatory lizard in nature. These guys are from Africa, and they are carnivores, and they'll pretty much eat whatever they can catch. Although Savannah monitor lizards, in particular this species, they're more insectivores than anything. So they'll eat a lot of bugs. But monitor lizards are the family of the lizards that gets the largest. You know what the largest lizard in the world is?
Is it the Komodo dragon?
Very good. It's a Komodo dragon. This is essentially a miniature Komodo dragon, but non-venomous, because Komodo dragons are actually venomous. Komodo dragons have very heavy bacteria in their saliva as well, which can be very, I would say, dirty and not great to be bitten and then left in your wound, but also are actually venomous. Some monitors as well, other than the Komodo, are venomous too. This one's really not. They might have a very mild, essentially venom is just a very strong saliva. So the most venomous animals out there that have saliva venom, like snakes and things like that, like a viper, that is just their saliva super concentrated for ultra fast digestion and quick death. But these guys do not have anything significant to a human. So if she did bite me, which she never has, she's very nice, I would be okay, is what I'm trying to say. But they are essentially kind of like a miniature Komodo. They look just like them. But this is a Savannah monitor. They're found in the savannah, of course, of Africa. Oh, look at that tongue. She is in a bit of a shed cycle, so her skin is a little bit dry looking, but that's kind of typical of a young monitor lizard like her. They're kind of always growing and always shedding, so please forgive. She just has some dry skin on top there. But these guys are carnivores. They will hunt their food. They have excellent senses of all the senses. They have a forked tongue like a snake, which helps them to actually taste and smell the air a little bit. Snakes do not have really a sense of taste at all. They don't really have taste buds. A lizard does, so they have a sense of taste. And they also stick out their tongue to smell stuff, but they also have a nose to smell stuff. So it's kind of like a really cool extra thing that they have. Not every lizard has a forked tongue, but the ones that do, they have that extra sense.
Can you talk about her ears?
Yes, I can. So those ears are on the side of her head. She might start to get a little wiggly if I hold her in different ways. Her ears are right there, here, on the side of her head. She's got 2 of them, obviously, just like anybody. But animals that have ears typically have 2, right? But they are very good at hearing. These guys have all 5 senses, like I mentioned, and very heightened on all of them. Touch, smell, taste, all things, all 5. What am I missing? Sight. Very good vision, but their hearing is about as good as a human's is, if not a little bit better. So that's actually saying a lot for a lizard. But those are definitely her ears. Those are the ear holes. They don't have ear flaps. Did you know that mammals are the only ones that have ear flaps?
Really?
So birds don't have them. Of course, fish don't have them. They don't really have ears. But amphibians typically have just a very simple ear as well, if they have them. Lizards, if they have them, have very simple ear holes. Snakes don't have ears. But mammals are the only animals that sometimes have the ear flaps, sometimes smaller, sometimes bigger, depending on the mammal. She does have very sharp claws. They just kind of like to move it sometimes. Relax for us. They're actually a very active animal, and they are daytime. They're diurnal creatures. They're not nocturnal. So with all these lights, she's probably like, wow, the sun came back out and I'm ready to boogie over here. Why do you think they call them a monitor lizard? There's many species of monitor, and monitor, that's kind of an interesting word.
It means like, to me, it means like watchful. Like
watchful, exactly. So monitor, for those of you out there, it's not just like a monitor on, on the wall, a screen monitor. Although that does have to do with looking, right? Looking at monitoring. It has to do with monitoring their surroundings. So these guys have really good eyesight, as I think I mentioned already. Very pretty orange eyes in the species. They're super observant, always very reactive, extremely smart as well. So I think that the reason they started calling them monitor is because they would kind of look to these guys to see their reaction to things around in the environment. So if humans were around, they would look at the monitor lizards, and if they're reacting to something scary, they better run too, because these guys, they're tough animals. So if they see maybe like a bigger predator, like a lion or anything, even if it's not a predator, like an elephant, something big and dangerous, they're probably going to go running or at least react. And these guys are usually the first to react. Another animal that'll do that is birds. Birds are very observant to their surroundings, and they'll usually make noises or fly away. These guys don't really make noises per se. They might hiss at you sometimes, but they will for sure react and do something. So they used to say, oh, look at the monitor lizard. We can monitor their surroundings, etc. So it definitely has to do with their vision, their just kind of like awareness of their natural surroundings. That's a good guess. Very good. You're exactly right.
So do they in the savannah, is there like a wet season and a dry season?
There is. So savannah only has 2 seasons. So these guys tend to kind of stick around all the time. They'll just eat less. They'll kind of go a little more dormant during the dry season, but they'll just kind of eat as much as they can during the wet season. And that can include anything from insects to arachnids like scorpions and spiders, to other lizards, to eggs, small rodents, birds, things like that. And this is a girl, we're pretty sure, right? And that is mostly because of her size and age, but the males are far bigger. They're like 2 or 3 times as big as this. So that type of lizard can certainly eat more things than a creature. They will eat it, or an egg, or a dead creature too, but not vegetables. They're not an omnivore, just a carnivore. But they'll try to eat all they can. But since they are reptiles, they can not eat as much as like a mammal would have to, or a bird, of course, because they're full-blooded instead of warm-blooded.
Yeah.
Exactly. They don't have to eat every day if they don't want to. So they can survive through the dry season as long as they have a little bit of water. They may go looking for more water. They might just sleep more, things like that. That's a good question. Some animals even hibernate in the savannah, like frogs. Frogs will go underground and hide the whole dry season and then just pop out during the wet season. Most animals, though, they'll migrate. They'll leave and come back. That's a good question. Anything else you want to know about her? She's so cute. Show that tongue some more, Dina. So Dina, how about her story? A lot of times people ask us, where in the world do our animals come from? Well, we didn't pluck her out of the savannah of Africa, that's for sure. A lot of our animals are rescues. So sometimes we do have, for example, our opossums that we have. We have 2 opossums, Alice and Cooper. And Alice and Cooper came from a situation where they were found in the quote unquote wild of Texas, right? In the city. And they were rescued by Good Samaritans. Them too young at the time. They're very imprinted. So those 2 cannot go back to the wild. But that's about the extent of where we would like take animals out of the wild, right? So Dina, as far as we know, we have no idea if she came from the wild or not, because I wasn't there when she was first homed anywhere. So what happened with her is, speaking of wildlife rehabber, so the same actual woman who helped us find our opossums found this one too, but she didn't find her actually. She got a call from, I think, a man that found this lizard running around in a field in Texas, in North Texas. And it was about to be wintertime actually, so she would not have made it because these guys do not experience a wintertime in the wild at all. So they would have not survived at all. So it's a good thing somebody found Dina here, and they said it was running around and it was nice. It was actually tame. And they were like, what in the world is happening? And as you can see, she's actually pretty tame. So obviously we think used to be somebody's pet in some capacity. A lot of these guys though are unfortunately taken from the wild as babies and then sold in pet stores, which we definitely don't condone, but it does happen. And I imagine she's either a captive bred animal from a breeder or she was from a pet store. Who knows? She might be from Africa. Who knows? As a baby, maybe. But definitely at some point socialized because she's very, very chill with humans. I see her dancing around, but she's not trying to bite me or anything like that. And she's usually very good. But yeah, that's her story. So she was picked up by some random person. And then they quickly realized that they didn't know what they were doing with a monitor lizard and turned her into the rehabber who I know through our opossums. And the rehabber was like, hey, I have this lizard. We're not really lizard people. Do you want the lizard? And I was like, what kind of lizard? And they were, because that can be anything, right? There's so many species. And they were like, oh, we think it's a monitor lizard. And I was like, oh boy, because monitor lizards usually are not this nice. So, which I am okay with some of the time, but we obviously specialize in animal ambassadors. So we want them to be friendly enough at least to hold and teach about and things like that. As it turned out, she was super friendly. So I said, you know what, let me give it a try. And that was like, we've had, I don't know if she was here, but close to then. So we've had no issues with her. She's just wiggly sometimes.
I can tell she likes the lights. She likes the spotlight.
Yes.
And then I think how you're holding it, like your hands are warm, so that's probably.
Yeah, you know, as a reptile, they definitely get more energy from heat and more energy from lights. That's for sure. But I think we are a very sweet monitor. If you've ever met anybody out there met another Savannah monitor, not so nice, you'll know that they can definitely eat your face if they want to, because they are wild animals after all. We are so cute. But this one's a really cool ambassador. You know, because of her story, because of, you know, also another thing we like to teach about too is not every animal makes a good pet. And the best thing is not to set your pet free if you don't want them anymore. It could be a dog or cat or anything. Could be a horse, could be a duck, could be a lizard sometimes. We don't recommend you guys just setting them free. That is not good for them. Most animals do not know how to take care of themselves in the wild. Even an opossum, after they've been taken care of by humans, they're probably not going to make it in the wild anymore. So they really get spoiled. And then they don't really have those skills anymore. So it's definitely not good for them. They can pass away that way. So the best thing to do is give somebody professional a call. So they did the right thing by finding the at least a wildlife rehabber in both situations, the opossum and the lizard. And then eventually Dina found a permanent home with us, and so did our opossums. So that's what we try to do. But it's a great example of, you know, not just the natural history of an animal, but also like, hey, take care of your pets. Not every animal makes a good pet. You may buy them as a baby and then they grow, you know, and they're very specialized. And I definitely don't recommend Savannah monitors as pets. They're usually not very calm at all.
Right. You know, some schools have like classroom pets too.
That is true.
Yeah, but this would be a bit much for a
This is a little too big and also too needy to have as a class pet. I think some animals make okay class pets as long as they're taken care of. Please take care of your class pets. I think class pets are a great kind of intro to a lot of kids to animals, and it's like, you know, the kids love them. I hear it constantly how much the kids love their class pets. We just got to make sure they're well taken care of and they make sense. This animal typically gets a lot bigger than this, like I mentioned before, especially males. And I don't know if Dina is just stunted or something like that too because of poor care in the past. But we could just be a little female, like I mentioned. But these guys typically are pretty rowdy. They're definitely high maintenance. They're very smart. They need a lot of activity and enrichment as well. And definitely need something to do on the weekends when you guys are home for the weekend. But there's other better class pets, I think.
Yeah. Well, being an animal ambassador is a good job for her. Because,
for sure. For sure. Have you ever seen a Savannah monitor before in person?
So.
Maybe a picture?
I've seen Komodo dragons at the zoos, and I can definitely see the resemblance.
Yeah, they're super similar.
I do not want to get up close to a Komodo dragon because their mouths are venomous and dirty. So.
That is right. And they're big enough to eat you. So a Komodo dragon can straight up eat a person. This one, no.
Right.
But they would still maybe give you a bite in the wild.
Yeah. What can I tell you?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I can feel her skin. It's almost like it's not wet or slimy at all. It's just dry.
Definitely not wet or slimy.
It feels kind of like beads.
It does.
And then with like a little bit of dry skin, like an old leather bound book kind of.
Yes. Yeah. Have you ever felt an elephant before?
No.
This actually does kind of feel like an elephant, but an elephant would be much warmer. Be like
right.
a person, right?
Right.
This is a lizard, so they're not as warm.
Yeah.
Unless they're in the sun, right? Since they're cold blooded, they're whatever temperature it is around them. But this actually does feel a lot like an elephant. Now that I think about it,
that's cool.
Especially her belly. Her belly feels soft.
Yeah.
Ricky says there's something beeping. I don't think so. I don't hear anything beeping.
How often does she shed her skin?
A lizard like this, they kind of just all the time.
Okay.
Right now we're kind of in a kind of a bad state of shed or good, I guess. If you ask her, she's just growing up and being a lizard. But there's a lot going on right now. It's not always like this, but
yeah.
But there's always something.
Yeah.
Do you have but she's a nail trim right now. But they do a lot of digging and running around, so that helps a little bit. They're not too bad. Now this lizard can climb a little bit as well. They have kind of a semi-prehensile tail. It's definitely not like a chameleon or anything like that, or a monkey. But these guys can hold on a little bit, which is handy for them to be able to climb some. And the smaller they are, the more climbing they'll do to get away from danger, predators, things like that. And the bigger they get, the more on the ground or underground they'll be. But they're pretty adaptable to different situations. And savannas are, trees, bushes, lots of grass, lots of rocks, things like that. But where you'll mostly see them in the wild for a lot of animals, there could be even like a little abandoned kind of section hole of the termite mound. They can seek shelter from the sun and things, but also that's their food. These guys will eat a ton of termites in the wild and really anything they can catch, like I mentioned, but that's a great food source for a lot of animals.
And termite mounds can be huge, right?
They are.
We think
tall.
Like a fire ant hill could be pretty big, like a few inches, but like in the savannah, a termite mound can be like
huge, like a building. It's like taller than an elephant.
Whoa.
They're huge, so elephants will like scratch their backs against them and stuff. That's how big they are and strong. So termites make them, but they're rock hard. It looks kind of like an anthill, like you mentioned, but it's more of like a rock, like a hill.
Tower.
Yeah, super cool. A lot of animals benefit from termite mounds in the wild. Okay, Dina. Maybe you guys will see her in a classroom near you coming up. All right, Dina, good job. Say goodbye to our friends over on other socials. I'm getting cut up over here with some nails. People, I was mentioning before, my favorite animal is snakes. We don't have a snake today because I bring them too often, to be honest. But snakes at least they don't cut you up with their nails.
There was at School Discovery Day at the Green Line, there was a snake. The snake was super popular.
I forget which snake came out.
Oh,
gosh. Was it?
I think it was a boa with sort of beige.
Was it white in color? No, kind of yellow. It was either prince or princess, I think, or one of our ball pythons.
Yeah.
But I think David's been out to other ones in the past. David is our boa constrictor. David Boa. Yeah. You guys ready for another animal? I don't hear anything beeping. I have a comment that says, "Is something beeping?" But I think it's on your end. You don't hear anything, do you?
Nope.
Nope. Let's talk a little bit about classroom, like TEKS, STEAM, SEL. Forgive me, I'm new to all this stuff. So,
right.
So we're actually TEKS aligned and all the things. We try to be anyway. But.
Yeah, I think that one reason why I feel like I appreciate this partnership so much is I want to encourage the families in our audience. And we also have teachers and principals in our audience. So think about how to bring that enrichment, how to bring that excitement into your school. And
live animals.
Yeah, it's been a process for me, learning all these buzzwords and stuff. But you
yes,
guys
indeed. Me too.
Do a
Trust
good job.
Me, I know. Well, thank you.
Yeah,
because I'm definitely not a teacher. I do teach about the animal. I guess that makes me a teacher. But I'm super out of the loop, like I mentioned before. So
Yeah.
I'm learning
yeah.
too.
You know, like you guys have a great page on your website that explains like
onceinawild.com.
for educators, like, you know, and that way. So like, if you're like a parent who's listening and thinking like, wow, my kids love animals. Like I wish they could have an animal experience at school. Then like go to Once in a Wild and then look for the educator tab. And then also we have a guest post on SAChartermoms.com. It's on the top of the blog right now. And it's all about the education benefits of kids interacting with animals, and that's got
so many.
That's got links. Yeah. And then I like how you like on your site you break it down about like right, so like, you know, as like the teachers, the educators are always thinking about like how does this get us towards the goal of having well-educated kids. And like so this is where I get to bust out my Teeks app. There's actually a mobile app.
Handy. There's an app for that. Remember that commercial?
There's an app for
that.
There is, right. So it's Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. And in other states, it's called Common Core. But in Texas, we don't have Common Core. We have Teeks.
Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. Teeks.
There you go. And so it can feel overwhelming, but it's kind of like an outline. And it basically sets a set of goals of like, okay, like in kindergarten, like kids are, so for example, like, right, your K through 2 STEAM programs, and like they have this on their website. They explain like which Teeks it covers, right? So for kindergartners, there's a math teak that it says students expected to solve world problems, but only numbers up to 10, right? Because you don't overwhelm a kindergartner with big numbers, right? Like,
I'm already overwhelmed.
Right. You know, it's like, gotta build that foundation, right? But like, you know, so what that says is like, so like, you know, like the teachers, the instructional coaches, like they're trying to make sure that like, okay, are the kindergarten students, you know, doing things with math up to this number 10, right? And are they doing it with word problems? And like, but what a great way to get the kids engaged, because it's not just a word problem on a worksheet, but it's like, it's the animals. Yes. So that gets that focus.
So how would you apply that, do you think? I mean, maybe not you, but like, how should they?
Yeah. Well, no, I think you could ask, it's like, you know, like, okay,
we can definitely do it.
The animal, right. Oh, you're like, how many bugs does Dina eat? Okay. Right? Like, so how many bugs a day would Dina eat?
Would Dina eat? If she could help it, 100 bugs a day. But I tend
that's over the number.
I tend to no. Okay, up to 10. Got it. So we could do, well, it wouldn't be per day, maybe per week.
Yeah.
Because they're reptiles, they don't eat every day.
They eat slow.
But maybe like 20. Well, 20 is too many. You said up to 10.
Oh, yeah. Well,
how many meals? How many meals per week? Maybe like 3 meals per week.
There you go.
3 meals per week, 10 bugs each.
Right.
Bam.
Right. There you go. And then it's like, well, what if there's, you know, what if another monitor comes to Once in a While, and then you have to have meals for, you know, Dina and
monitor
her friends.
Meals.
Right. So then it's like, oh, that's not just 3 meals, that's 6 meals because it's for 2 lizards.
Got
right?
it.
So, you know, it's
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that would help me as a kid. Let's go back in time.
Right.
Ricky was asking over here, what would be a good charter school for zoologists and for future vets? Are there any
that's a good
kind of focus on that? If you don't know, it's okay.
Yeah. So I would say
animal stuff.
Yeah. Like, okay. So I'm assuming that anybody who goes to veterinary school, like they would need to have a math and science background.
True.
Right? True. It's like, you know, because like if you
anything
need to
medical, right?
Medicine, right? Like you need to know, like, right? Like so you have to take chemistry and understand, like, oh, this is, you know, and I've been warned from my brother-in-law, the anesthesiologist, that organic chemistry is one of the toughest classes you can
and
take.
Some biology students have to study organic chemistry as well, so it just depends on where you focus it.
Yeah. And so like there are schools like, so for example, so like basis schools is they have a few campuses in town, but like they're known for having an accelerated science program. So like kids in high school are already taking the AP classes and the AP exams even in like 9th and 10th grade, because in middle school they have like a science survey. So it might be like in each year of middle school science, like you might study some geology and some biology and some chemistry and some physics, and it kind of cycles through all of those. So it's like taken as a whole, like they cover all the subjects, but they kind of spiral it in a different way. And so then kids in high school, like even in 9th and 10th grade, like they're doing like advanced science. And then what happens is kids like in their senior, like capstone year, they get to these really cool projects. Like they partner up with like universities. They might be doing like actual biomedical research, like as a high school student, and that's their capstone project. So that's a great program for kids who, like, you know, especially if they want to do research and like do like advanced studies. But really there are a lot of schools that have STEM programming. I'm not aware of specifically.
That's okay.
Oh, actually, I take it back. Okay, so there are several schools that have 4-H chapters or like Future Farmers of America. And actually in Northeast ISD at Madison High School, there's an ag program. I think in Northside, I want to say maybe O'Connor. Okay. Anyway, like on the more at traditional public schools, but that have choice programs like magnet programs within. And like Burbank in San Antonio ISD, like they have an ag program. So do you know? It's okay. So he lived in California, and he was a plant scientist but very hands-on. Like, so he would like crossbreed. So like a lot of, if you go to the produce section,
I think this is coming back to me now.
You know, like the pluots and like all this like really. So as a native Californian, I am proud of the agricultural heritage of California and
fruit.
yes, all these beautiful fruits. So he was a real pioneer in agriculture, like part of like the green revolution of the 20th century of like, you know, really improving the world's food supply. So Burbank High School in San Antonio ISD is named after him, and they have an ag program. What's really cool about Burbank is that they've added an international baccalaureate program, and so this is like an international standard. It was for like in the 60s, like, you know, if like a family would move from one country to another and they needed some way to compare, like, and so if you're like, oh, well, if you started an IB school here and then you move to another country and go to another IB school, they recognize what's on your transcript. And or if you want to apply to a university overseas, they're like, oh, IB, okay, because they, you know, a university overseas might not understand an American transcript, but
of course,
right, they can understand IB. So Burbank is a certified.
We're making it
IB
less complicated.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I did not know that. I'm learning something new.
So many flavors. This is like the learning models aspect.
And then zoology is more. So I know this. Zoology is more. Obviously, we're studying like animal behavior, animal natural history. So it's not like we're digging into animals, you know, inside. So for vets, it's so much different. Although I guess I could have seen myself going that direction, or at least trying to. But the math and chemistry, it's not for me. So I'm an artist. So no, but none of that stuff grosses me out. Like, I'm super fascinated by all the ins and outs of animals. I don't necessarily want to be in the medical field because I think it just takes a special kind of like endurance to do that for any medical field. So I'm guessing doctor, vet, whatever, same kind of schools that you just mentioned. Would make sense. But zoology is more definitely more specialized. But you know, I'm sure there's something for that as well. Yeah, we can help you there.
Right, exactly. And it may be the kind of thing where, like, you know, you pick like the high school program that has these core subjects, but then you try to find things in the community to supplement, right? Like volunteering at the animal shelter.
Definitely hands-on stuff, because if you want to be a zookeeper, you got to get really messy, dirty. You have to really do like physical work, things like that. But there's other animal jobs too that you can do if you're less into that. I'm sure there's something for you as well. There's behind the scenes stuff. There's sales. There's all sorts of cool things that you can do. So if you want to help animals, don't give up. That's a lot of people, you know, they get into the field and it's not something they expected, like I mentioned before, and it's, you know, it can be disappointing and they give up. Don't give up. Or try something new. That's okay too. And a lot of your schooling will still apply. I mean, it'll still, at least it's a skill that you know. It's something to put on your resume. It's something there's always something. So, right? Yeah. That's well, let's meet a bug next, for lack of a better term. So a lizard, a bug, and then we'll meet a hooting bird who is giving himself away over there. Well, this is actually my favorite of all of our arthropods. Have you seen this one before, Inga?
I'm not sure.
This is Xena. So we met Dina, and now it's Xena. Xena. She's an African flat rock scorpion, another African animal, just like Dina, the savanna monitor. But these guys are exclusively found in South Africa. So only South Africa. They're actually a pretty small range where they're found, and they're only found in the desert. So these are a very dry weather, as opposed to Dina being savanna, which is wet and dry, you know, kind of like back and forth with their season. These guys really don't experience any season in the world, in their natural world. They're going to be very used to kind of like hot, dry, but deserts are typically cooler at night. So that is actually when this animal would mostly come out. It's going to be in the night. Xena is named after Xenomorph from the Alien movies, one of my favorite movie series. Fun fact. I love movies too. But these guys are, they look like a face hugger. But scorpions get a really bad reputation. Just like reptiles sometimes. Reptiles, I feel like people are really warming up to nowadays. People like reptiles nowadays. I would encourage you guys out there to get into arthropods, so bugs, invertebrates, things like that. We actually have an employee that works for us who is studying to be an entomologist right now, so that's super cool. All animals are important, and you know what? These guys are like here first. They're like some of the OG animals out there in the animal kingdom. These guys are super important. We definitely need arthropods in the environment. If we didn't have insects and arachnids out there, there would be all kinds of waste out there that would just not be taken care of because somebody has their carnivores, so they're going to be eating other animals. And these guys specialize in the desert lifestyle. So look how big she looks on camera, so cool. They eat very little, so and they don't need any water to drink at all in nature at all. We're nice to her, we give her water. But out in the desert where they live, they never have to drink. They're gonna get all the food all the water they need from the food that they eat. So moisture is right there in the bugs they eat. They can eat 1 roach a year and survive with food and water just from that. So that is pretty cool. They also grow very slow and they live very long. These guys can live into their 40s quite easily, even in the wild. That's because they don't really have to eat very much to survive. So they're a very, very hardy animal. But scorpions are one of my favorites. They're slowly becoming one of my favorites of all the invertebrates because there are so many cool facts to talk about. So what do you know about scorpions?
Visual facts and stuff. One time I saw scorpions under a black light and they were glowing, and I was super impressed.
They do. Yeah. They have basically glowy properties in their exoskeleton all throughout that are kind of what we think are leftovers from their cousins that used to live under the water. So these guys are very ancient animals. They're cousins from old days, used to be underwater, and a lot of animals have bioluminescent properties underwater for communication. Now it's kind of a leftover property in their whole self. But we don't really know what they use it for nowadays, if anything. It could be something that they see and we don't. They're definitely mostly nocturnal. Most of them have almost no vision. So they see, but not well. So we don't really know what happens there. But it is a really cool fun fact that they do glow under certain black lights and things like that. And that's all scorpion. So that's actually one way you can find scorpions in your environment if you want to find some, is by shining a black light in the darkness and you will actually see them. Pretty neat. They do have big claws, as you can see. Now, of course, Xena is not a dangerous scorpion to humans, or else I wouldn't be holding her with my bare hands. A lot of people are pretty astonished when I hold her with my bare skin, but they're completely harmless. So she has a tail, which is called a metasoma. So a metasoma is essentially the hind end. Metasoma, that's what that means. It is not really a tail. So it is her hind end. This is all kind of an extension of her abdomen. As an arachnid, which can be like a spider or a tick or others, there's vinegaroons, there's other types of arachnid. They have a cephalothorax, which is their center kind of head and center combined. So they have a centerpiece, and then they have a hind end, which is the abdomen, and a hind end here, which, and then they have a telson, which is the ball where the or like the bulb that holds the venom. So that is actually where the venom is in that telson, kind of like a bulb on the end of her tail, metasoma thing. And then, of course, the stinger on the end. But this species has almost no venom. So they do have venom, but the venom is super duper duper mild. And they barely even use it. In fact, they don't really use it at all unless they're feeling a little bit startled, and they could sting their enemies just kind of as a last resort, just like, hey, leave me alone. And that will hopefully deter some of their predators and things, or when they're feeling protective of their territory or their babies, they'll actually protect their babies, but their stings are not going to do much to anybody, even a small animal like an insect that they would hunt. Instead of using venom, what do? They just grab their food with their claws. So since they have huge claws, which, by the way, are not as strong as like a crab is far stronger than these guys. Another arthropod that's really cool. But these guys have strong enough to grab like a roach and squish it and then eat it. But that is how they hunt. That's really all they need anymore. Their lifestyle is typically underground in their burrow all the time. So a roach or a bug wanders in, it might be dinner if they're hungry enough. And if they're not hungry, then they won't eat at that time and they can survive just fine. But that is really how this animal would grab their food. They don't need the venom. Other scorpions that have a thicker tail and thinner claws, those are the ones that you would say, I mean, maybe I don't want to touch that one. And we don't recommend you guys picking up any scorpions by yourself if you don't know what you're doing. You're not an entomologist or some sort of expert, because some are definitely painful if you get stung by, and some can even have a very strong consequence. So we don't recommend holding those. But this one you would never see in America anyway. You would only see in South Africa exclusively, but they're pretty safe. Yeah, now they have a lot of predators though too.
I wonder if so they live in the desert and resources are limited, and so I wonder if that's one reason why they're so cautious about generating venom, because I imagine venom is probably pretty taxing to generate.
It's a liquid in their body. Yeah, totally. So they probably don't even want to. Never thought about that. Yeah, just and their mouth is really fascinating too. So their mouth parts are kind of like two more little miniature claws. Have you ever seen like a crab eat? Or, I mean, a scorpion too.
Oh, I see
the little claws.
Oh, and spiders like that too, right?
Spiders really don't have that. So spiders have fangs in the front, and that's how they're going to deliver. Well, most spiders have the venom, right? That's almost every species of spider, especially like tarantulas. They have huge fangs in the front, and they'll bite their food and then pump venom, and then simultaneously a spider will actually drool on their food. So they're just sloppy about it, and then they'll drink their food. So spiders actually don't have a crunching, like biting mouth at all. They just stab and then it's more like a vampire, like a messy vampire. But these guys do have like crab-like mouth parts.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting.
And then she's got little eyes on the top. See her? She's got 2 eyes on the top, and she actually has 2 more eyes on each cheek. I like to call it a cheek, like a little front section right here. Yeah. So she's got 2, 4, 6 eyes for this species anyway. Most species of scorpion have 6 eyes. Most species of spider have 8 eyes. But they're both arachnids, just very different ones than scorpion. But I just think she's so neat. She's so big. She kind of just hangs on and hangs out.
And then I can see, since I'm up close, she almost has like little fine hairs.
Yes, indeed. So that is also similar to a spider. A spider made of keratin, like our hair. It's made out of a different material because they're not very animal-y, because they're not mammal. But these guys do have hair-like projections on their body that's made out of the same thing as their exoskeleton is, but that is how they're going to find their food in the first place, is through touch. So sense of touch for scorpions and spiders are going to be their main sense. Some spiders have good eyesight too, like for example jumping spiders. Jumping spiders have big beautiful eyes. They can see great, but most spiders don't see well, so they're just feeling movement of wind, movement of critters on their web. These guys don't make webs obviously, but it's the same kind of idea, I guess. They're just feeling the vibrations of the bugs. Bugs are very twitchy. Some bugs and insects fly, like moths, so they can like catch them out of the air and things like that. That's gonna help them hunt.
I think I've seen pictures of scorpions with the babies riding on their back.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. My favorite thing about scorpions is they're great moms. So Xena here actually did have babies back in the day. So when we first adopted her, she was quite fat. I didn't think about this, but I should have used my brain and realized, oh, she's probably pregnant. She was quite fat, and she ended up having 39 children. 39, too many, way too many. So we only kept one, and we ended up finding the rest homes with various homes all over the place. Hopefully still doing well out there, but they grow very slow. So the baby that we have now is still pretty small. It's like tiny. That was like 3 years ago or 4 years ago. But she was a great mom. So they have live births. They give birth to live babies. The babies are white and soft when they emerge, and then they will crawl on mom's back so they can have protection from the world. And then eventually they go through, I think, 2 molts. So when they change their whole exoskeleton, just like a cicada does, or any invertebrate, they take off their whole exoskeleton, but the babies go through at least one, if not, I think it's 1 or 2 molts, I forget how many, before they actually leave their mother, because then they feel safe enough to have like a hard exoskeleton and be on their own. Mom will feed them at least 1 time before they leave, make sure they have a little meal to go, and then they leave. And then typically in nature, they have like kind of a burrow situation underground, and the babies will typically kind of hang out in the same burrow for a while until they venture off and get away from their mother, because at that point, they might end up being her dinner because she's probably ready for the next brood of babies. And what's really cool too is these guys can mate and then hang on to that sperm and then actually implant later. So if they feel like it's not a good situation to have babies yet, she can make the choice to not fertilize and then have babies later. So I think that's actually what happened. She might have held on and then been like, Okay, now's the time. I'm in a safe home, bam. But she was quite fat, so who knows how long she had been actually with child at the time. But that was pretty neat to see. Definitely not something I expected. I didn't think about that. And that was pretty cool surprise to see. That was the only time she's ever been super aggressive with me. She was about to have babies, and I didn't know. Yeah. She's usually very good.
39.
39. I know. It was almost an even 40. I was pretty irritated about that. I was like, why can't it just be 40? That's a weird number. But that's okay.
I have 2. That's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah. in one sweep as well. Pretty cool.
But I have to feed them more than just once before I turn them
Yeah. I was going to say, it's a lot of babies, but at least they get to leave like right away. Yeah. Pretty neat. But these guys are like people are so scared of them. And I always tell people, I'm like, I'm not going to throw her on you. She can't fly. It's okay. I'll keep you safe. She'll stay with me. And obviously not a dangerous animal to people. In fact, she has a lot of maybe people, but animals that would eat her in the wild. So they're actually quite a good food item for a lot of animals like meerkats, lizards like Dina. But Dina wouldn't be in the same section of Africa, not the same habitat exactly. But I'm sure there's other lizards out there that can eat them. But meerkats eat a lot of scorpions in Africa, all the way down South Africa too. So that would be a common one. Birds, of course, eat them too. Yeah, so they tend to be kind of like little hermits in their home and don't leave very often. I don't blame them.
When I moved to San Antonio as a teenager, before that we lived in Germany, and as far as I know, they don't have scorpions in Germany.
I don't know. That's probably true. It's a little bit cold.
I just remembered it's a right. So like the climate in Germany, it's a lot like Seattle, right? It's kind of a marine. Okay. Like, it's always cool, damp, never gets super cold or super hot. But just like, it was such a culture shock. So we moved to Texas.
How cold does it get in Germany? I didn't know that.
Gosh,
at least where you lived.
Yeah. I mean, it snowed a few times, but I mean, it never got, sorry, it's in metric over there.
No, it's okay. I'm just
so, but in Fahrenheit, it got, maybe down in the upper 20s, maybe. Mm-hmm. But like most of the winter, like Seattle, like maybe highs of 35, 45, maybe 50, like all winter. And then in the summer, it's like if it got to 75, the locals were like, oh my God, it's so hot. And we're like,
don't come to Texas. This last summer was the worst.
Yeah. We moved to Texas in August of 1990, and it was a string of 100-degree days. So summer of 1990 was kind of like this last summer, not quite as bad, but yeah, it was like a complete shock. And I'm like, okay, all right, this is the new normal. Let's get used to this.
I know. Well, the last summer we had was not normal. Yeah. It was not great. We really struggled through it with the animals and had to do everything inside.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. But I'm sure Xena would have liked it.
Right. Yeah.
But they are nocturnal, as most desert animals are. They're mostly nighttime animals because that makes sense. It's too hot for life in most deserts and too dry. Yeah. Hot and dry is a lot worse than hot and rainy. Because when I used to live in Florida, like for school and things, it's hot, but it rains every day, so it's not that bad. Yeah. At least we get life,
Yeah.
So
I know. There
definitely are.
Scorpion.
And I've never seen that many wild scorpions in Texas. I guess I'm not looking for them. But people tell me all the time, oh, we get them in our house and things like that. I'm like, well, don't pick them up. Definitely don't do that.
Because the ones in Texas do have some.
Yeah, it's definitely significant venom. It depends on the species, and I'm not an expert in entomology, so I don't know all the species that live here, but I know that there's like the bark scorpion. Those are definitely not one you want to touch. And always shake your shoes out and towels and things to make sure. What we run into most of the time is roaches, which are harmless but also scary. Roaches scare me. At least the flying ones.
And visitors from out of state are like, how big are the roaches?
Huge. Yeah, they're skateboards. They're bigger than your shoe. Oh, well, Xena, you're gorgeous. Any other questions about her or compliments?
I think so.
We love her. She's one of our favorite bugs to bring to classrooms too. We also have tarantulas. We have Madagascar hissing cockroaches, which are totally different than the other one I just mentioned. And we have a vinegaroon. We have all kinds of really cool creepy crawlies. That's where we kind of specializes in the smaller creepy crawlier animals. But these guys have been really popular all October as well for creepy crawly season. So you did a great job being a great animal ambassador for scorpions. Okay, wave goodbye to everybody. Bye. Bye. Oh, she gets a lot of, it's interesting because it's not the kids. It's usually the parents that go, ew, or whatever. And we're like, no, don't at you. You can say no thank you. That's nicer.
Yeah.
And obviously animals are not for everyone, and not every animal species is for everyone. That's why we have a job, right?
Right.
But it's a good thing to what's the word? We can kind of introduce people to animals they may not see every day, kids, adults, everybody, classrooms, otherwise, and help them to understand that every animal is important. Every animal, even if you may not like them or care for them, maybe you can learn to like them or learn to respect them at least respect, right? That's all we can ask.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. Are we ready to meet our bird friend? I think we are.
I'm so excited.
Let me make sure there's not any other questions here. Oh, Ricky's just mentioning we have our activity sheets that the teachers can get before the interactive parts of Once in a Wild. So that's, I guess, on our website as well. If you would like to talk about anything else, maybe reintroduce yourself really quick because I have to walk over there, get the owl, and come back. But we are going to meet an owl here in a second. He'll be with us the rest of the time, however long that may be. But go ahead and maybe reintroduce yourself to our audience.
Yes,
tell everybody why you're here, what's going on.
Yeah.
Events coming up.
Yeah. Okay. So San Antonio Charter Moms, we help families to research schools that are going to be the right fit for their kids. And we have an event series called School Discovery Days. We've had one event so far. That was down at the Green Line, and Once in a Wild was there. They brought animals for the. I'm going to hold up our flyer. And so our next event is November 11th, and it's going to be at Confluence Park, which is on the south side. So the events, they're free, and they run from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we're going to have, we just checked, we have 31 schools coming to Confluence Park. So, and then the events in 2024, we have one at the Museum on January 20th. And then we have Second Baptist Church on the east side on February 3rd. And Hemisphere on March 2nd. And we have lots of resources. So like we have our website, SAChartermoms.com. We have our social media at SAChartermoms. We have a big Facebook group. And so folks can come there and ask questions. And it's exciting that there's so many school options, but it can also be overwhelming to try to narrow it down. And that's why we have the tools like the list different schools. But oh wow, and then the owl is our logo, so I'm so excited to get to actually meet
I'm gingerly making my way over here.
Yeah,
the studio may look huge from y'all's perspective, but it's tiny and full of things. Put your wings down, you won't fit on screen.
Oh, it's a little breezy in here.
Grab that feather before it flies away. Too late. Yeah, you can grab the feather, that's fine.
Okay.
So I wanted Inga to be able to touch the owl, but the best way to touch an owl is the feather, because they do molt feathers every now and then, like any bird. Oh, good. He's right there on screen for pretty much everybody. Yay! So this is Rango, the owl. Please finish your sentence. It's okay. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Right. No, I guess it's
your mascot is the owl. That's so cool.
Yeah. Well, it's good. Owl is like a symbol of wisdom, right? And like the goddess Athena, right?
Yes.
And, actually, it's the mascot for Great Hearts Live Oak.
Very good.
Owl. Yeah.
Make sure we're in focus here.
Actually, there are some very random mascots around San Antonio.
There sure are. The newest one I heard is an axolotl, which is another one of our favorite animals once in a while.
Yeah, and like
owl's very popular though.
Couple Crows is the polar bears. Is the founder is a hockey fanatic from up north.
Oh, okay,
so
got it.
Yeah.
Definitely not an animal you would see in San Antonio or Texas. Except for they used to have them at the San Antonio Zoo a long time ago. Not anymore. It's too hot for polar bears. Y'all, but he's been on the show many times. Rango's our Eurasian eagle owl, and he is a male. So male owls are smaller than girl owls. Did you know that? The females are twice as big, usually twice as big for every species of owl. Wow. So it could be a great horned owl, a barn owl, a barred owl, any owl, a snowy owl. The females are always bigger than the boys. And the reason for that is because during the breeding season, he's going to chat a lot today and say one word over and over again. But these guys will typically be seasonally monogamous, which means they'll find the same meat and mate every year if they can. And if they can't find their mate, something happened to them, they'll usually get another mate. But usually they like to find the same mate, stay in the same area year after year, find each other, raise their babies together for half the year, and then they split up again. So they kind of have a half a year off from their marriage, which is kind of cool. A little break. But these guys do co-parent their babies. which means they both take care of the young. So owls like this will have around 3 to 5 babies each time, which is quite a few. And the mom's job is to, of course, lay the eggs and have them and lay them. But she will also sit on the eggs and sit on the babies while they're very young. So she needs to be a little bit bigger to be able to sit on the nest, guard the babies with her body. If predators try to approach, she will try to get them and chase them away so she can be big and tough. But it's mostly to sit on everything. That is her job. And then the male's job, not only to go to the bathroom, but also to hunt for the whole family. So he, by default, ends up being a little bit smaller through evolution. He is faster a little bit. He's a little bit more athletic and doesn't need to sit on all those kids. So he can be smaller compared to the girls. So believe it or not, he's the small one.
It's interesting what you said about like being in the same, kind of in the same place.
Yes.
Year to year, because I think there's an owl family that lives in the Almost Basin, kind of
so
near.
Cool.
So like we do. Well, I'm kind of a morning person, and we do early morning
walks.
You're
a morning person, eh?
And sometimes we'll hear the owls in the woods and on the edge of the Almost Basin, and and it seems like we hear them like consistently over time.
So cool. It's probably the same owls, or I mean, it could be multiple owls. Obviously, different owl families, because the territory is not huge, but big enough for them to be comfortable and hunt and things. They are a little bit territorial, but not severely. You'll see owls sharing similar areas, but anyway, but it could be the same owls. They live a long time, so most of the bigger owl species like him or great horned owls, etc., they're going to live into their at least 30s in the wild. And in human care, he can live to his 60s pretty easily because, of course, he gets everything catered to him and vet care. And if he starts to lose his vision or hearing, he doesn't have to hunt for himself. So that's typically where owls start meeting their demise in the wild, is not being able to find food anymore. So if their eyesight starts going, they can't see as well. Their hearing starts going, they can't hear as well, obviously. And they have almost no sense of smell. So they probably have a little bit of sense of smell, but we don't know much about their sense of smell. But they certainly don't hunt with their sense of smell. So they can't make up for that if they lose their sight or their hearing. That is their livelihood. But they do live a long time, which is where we get the phrase, the wise old owl. Old is definitely correct. And wise because I think people would see the same owls kind of year after year, get familiar with them, and think, oh my gosh, they must be so wise. So definitely a symbol of smarts. And big giant eyes that kind of look like glasses, I think. So I think that's another thing that people kind of associate. Big eyes must mean smart, right? He certainly does have huge eyes. Do you know much about owls? You tell me what you know.
So whenever we hear them, it's usually at night, and sometimes we'll see them only like in the morning before the sun gets bright, or like in the evening. Like, so
they'll sometimes be out during sunrise and sunset as well. Still a nocturnal creature. I'm going to be much better at seeing at night for sure. Owls don't see a whole lot of color compared to other birds, but most birds see a ton of colors that we don't even see. Their spectrum of colors is far different than humans. So he still sees color, but just not as much as like an eagle or a hawk would. But they don't need to, since they're out in the night. So they kind of more focused on.
They need to see motion.
Yes, motion and very sharp vision as well. So these guys can actually see 100 yards away still sharply in the dark. So as long as they have like just like the teeniest bit of light that for us it would be no light, but for them that's still enough. So for example, if you're in a football field, this is the way most people explain it. If you're in an enclosed football field stadium and it's enclosed with a roof, it's like a concert hall type stadium, and the lights are all off. All you need is one candle for him to see by the whole space. So that's really incredible. I don't think I can even see the candle anymore in that big of 100-yard giant football stadium type situation. He's so cute. But that's how well they see. They, of course, don't have x-ray vision, but they see very well. But if they can't see something because, of course, prey hides, prey doesn't want to be eaten, they'll then use their ears as well. So the ears and the eyes together or separately, they can hunt that way. A little feather on your side of your head. I want to get it. You move. But their hearing is actually super sensitive as well. He can still hear a prey 100 yards away, no problem, even if it's underground. So he can hear them like just living. So even if it's just breathing, heart beating, doesn't even have to be scratching or scurrying. He can still figure out if there's at least a prey over there.
It's breezy.
He wants to stretch and be alive in the nighttime. Oh, you're so cute. But that's another way, of course, for them to find their prey. And as soon as that rat popped out of the ground, they don't fly very fast. They're not a fast flyer, but they're super ultra quiet. So you have an owl feather here. You can feel how soft it is, of course.
Yeah.
And when they flap their wings, I know we heard the backdrop over here because it moves. They don't really make noise with their wings at all. But that makes sense because they need to be quiet to hunt their food. If they were flapping and making noises, everything would run away from them. And they're not super fast. These guys fly anywhere from 20 to 30 miles an hour tops. A falcon can fly far over 200 miles an hour. So that gives you, I mean, they're just not a fast bird at all, but it doesn't really matter because they're quiet and sneaky.
Yeah, but like we saw as he lifted his wings, like you saw like how aerodynamic the wing is.
Indeed. Yeah, birds of all types have amazing wings to fly straight through the air. It's almost like swimming. It's amazing. I can't even imagine being able to fly. That'd be so cool. I want to be a bird. And of course, they catch their food with their talons. Owls actually have zygodactyl toes. You know what that means?
No.
Zygodactyl, one of a really cool Scrabble word for you guys.
Yeah.
Zygodactyl means 2 toes in the front and 2 toes in the back instead of 3 and 1. So most birds have 4 toes, except for like ostriches. Ostriches are weird. They have 2 toes. But these guys have 4 toes, but most birds would have 3 in the front and 1 in the back. Right. So parrots and I'm trying to remember which other kind. I'm not going to say it because I can't remember which it is. But I know owls and parrots have zygodactyl toes. So 2 in the front and 2 in the back. That actually gives them a better grip than 3 and 1. Sorry, I'm losing my voice this week because I've been doing so many programs. It's going to give them a very strong grip even without the toenails on there. They're going to be able to grab their food. So even if he didn't have talons, he could still clamp his food.
Right, because it's 2 in front and 2.
Because it's like a vice.
Yeah.
But with the talons, I mean, it's a done deal. And an owl does not have a very strong beak. So a bird of prey like a hawk or an eagle, they'll usually crunch their food with their face as well. So they'll grab and then grab with their face. So grab and grab. These guys, nothing of the sort. They will look far, far away from they do not want to harm their face at all from a prey. They let their talons do all the work, and they definitely don't want their eyes to get hurt because that's all they have to be able to hunt, right? Eyes and ears. And their beak is not very strong anyway, so it really wouldn't do much. Pardon me.
So he does have a lot of like very fluffy feathers around his face. And so I'm wondering, like, are the ears kind of behind the eyes, like, or the ear holes, like, so there's no, as you said, not a mammal, so no
ear flaps. Yeah. He does have V's, which are more like eyebrows. So this is really similar to what like a cockatoo would have. So a cockatoo would have a crest for self-expression. That could be to like, tell us things with body language. Also owls like this, they're so big that they usually can't hide inside of a tree or hide inside of something. So in order to break up their body pattern for camouflage, they have like almost like leaves on top of their head, but they can lower them and raise them for self-expression like any bird can do with their feathers, fluff up and down. But their ears are on the side of their head. But what's really interesting about owls is they have a flat face, kind of like a satellite dish, which helps to funnel in sound to their ears. But their ears are also crooked. So he's got one ear way up high and one ear down low. And one is pointing more forward and one is pointing more down and kind of backwards-ish. That way, they say they can hear in 3D. So they can actually figure out exactly, it's almost like a picture in their brain of what shape they're hearing, what type of sound. Very complicated, look it up. But
that's really cool.
But it's a lot more than us just hearing a sound. They can actually get like an image in their head of what they're actually hearing and where it is exactly. And by bobbing their head around, they can triangulate sound up and down like this, and that can help them narrow down where the animal is.
That's
with their eyes and ears. Yes, buddy. And they're pretty neat. And these guys, of course, warm-blooded, not like an invertebrate or a reptile. They got to eat every single night. If they skip a night, they'll be extra hungry the next night. And a lot of times the best way to see daytime birds of prey, like hawks, for example, in Texas, there's a lot of hawks. The best time to see them is after a storm, because that's usually when they'll take the day off. He's just getting comfortable. He's just huge and making all the wind. Woo! I know. You're very excited. You're a good boy. They will often take the night or the day off if it rains, and owls are no different too. So we can't really see owls in the night, right? But we can listen for them. And the most owl activity you'll hear or see, maybe you can, be out there in the night and try to find owls. But my point is most birds of prey don't hunt in the rain. Right. So, and most birds in general are waterproof. Birds of prey tend to be like especially owls, super not waterproof. They have the soft feathers, which don't have any waterproofing at all. There's no oil to it. They're not rigid. Even like an eagle or a hawk, they sometimes hunt like fish. An osprey will hunt fish. You're extra happy. You're in a great mood tonight. He wants to dance. But these guys definitely are not waterproof at all, and don't enjoy the rain. So that's a lot of times too why owls will want to find like a hollow tree to nest in or something like that, rather than just nesting in a tree. But these guys are a little bit too big for that, so they'll just get really wet like a wet cat when it rains. Are you looking at Joanna? So behind the scenes, you guys, we have we're in the studio, but it's also some of our winter housing for our iguana and tortoises. So he's not used to seeing Joanna in here, but he has seen her before. So maybe that's what he's looking at over there. Joanna the iguana. Anyway, what else? Owls are so cool. They're one of my favorite birds to talk about. Their neck can twist, right?
Oh yeah.
270 degrees is as far as they can go one way. They can go the other direction as well. And they can't keep rotating because that would hurt their neck, obviously. But we have, do you know how many neck bones a human has? Like vertebrae?
Oh, that's a question. It's like about a dozen?
No.
How many?
Only 7. We have 7 neck bones. He has 14 neck bones. Wow. Like the little vertebrae. And his neck is a lot longer than it looks because these guys are really fluffy, but they do have quite a long neck. And you can see how far my finger disappears into his neck fluff here. He has about the length of a neck. I have to fact check myself, about like a chicken has. So you know how a chicken, if you take all the feathers away, they have a very long, kind of slender, funny looking neck with no feathers. He would look the same. And so a chicken and an owl, they both have very flexible necks. In fact, almost every bird can turn their head around. It's just owls that are famous for it for some reason because they have the flat face and the big eyes. His eyes don't move in socket either, so he has to turn his head quite a bit to look around. But they are excellent at seeing things.
So I know sometimes, like also as a former homeschooler myself, like a common homeschool science project is to order owl pellets.
Owl pellets,
and then take them apart, and then But
that
I just
pretty cool.
What are some things like for like this species of owl, like you're eating?
So anything that they would eat, they could not digest fur, feathers, scales potentially, or bones of any other prey. And this species of owl, the males are anywhere from 3 to 5 pounds. Not a very big animal. Females are bigger though, so they can weigh up to 10 pounds. That's a big bird of prey, especially an owl, because owls are mostly fluff, like I think I mentioned. So being a 10-pound bird underneath all that fluff, that's a big bird of prey, and they're eating every single night, right? As much as they can. They have to take a night off, and they're hungry the next night. But these guys, no matter what they choose to eat, which can be almost any animal they want. So owls like this can hunt something up to 40 pounds. So they only weigh up to 10 pounds as a species, but they can't lift 40 pounds, but they could probably lift 15 or 20 pounds with a good gust of wing to be able to take it at least away. But what these owls often do too is they're just not picky eaters. So anything they can get a hold of, they're hungry, they're going to go for it. And they're not a bird that migrates. So they stay throughout the whole winter, every season. So during the winter, they especially can't be picky. So they'll hunt larger animals that are still out for the winter. Other owls are a big menu item for them too. But no matter what it is, if it's bones, if they say they just eat a little mouse, the whole mouse is going to go down the throat. If it's a bigger food item, they just break it up and eat it in pieces, right? But no matter what it is, that stuff is not going to be digestible. So they will actually kind of sort it out in their first level of digestion. They're kind of like cows. They have chambers. And the first chamber is called the gizzard. So not every bird has a gizzard, but most of them do. It's right here in the front. And that's where the fur, the feathers, the bones is going to be sorted out, and they spit it up like a hairball. And that's every single meal. Now, if they eat something like we give him, which could be just muscle meat, he's not going to spit up a owl pellet because it doesn't have any hair or bones. But most animals in the wild, of course, do have those things. So he's going to have to spit up something. But he could, hunt a larger animal and then just eat off of it. But if there's fur, that's going to come up. But if it's just muscle meat, it won't. So that's what comes up. And the reason for that is because they can't digest it, but it would also cut him. So the especially the bones, right? I hope I'm making any sort of sense. You're very distracting.
So some birds have they'll swallow stones and stuff in their gizzard, right? But
they do.
Owls probably don't need to do that because
no.
So
I can't remember which birds do that.
Chickens,
yeah, it's like a grit thing, right?
Yeah.
I'll
also do that.
Not a super ton of them do that or need it anyway. A few. But no, owls don't have to do that. No.
Yeah. Okay, so birds are like I love like one of my favorite places is the Houston Museum of Natural Science because they have, like the fossil exhibits. Mm-hmm. You were talking about like the scorpions. It's like maybe the reason they're reacted with black light is because they had these
their ancestors,
mm-hmm. right? And like they have tons of fossils from that era mm-hmm. of evolution. And then, but it also makes you think about like like the similarities between birds and dinosaurs.
Yes,
tons of dinosaur.
They're cousins.
Yeah, and like we don't have dinosaurs on the Earth anymore. Like, we've all seen Jurassic Park, and I don't want to get overrun by velociraptors.
No, definitely not. Yeah. Or Deinonychus, or whatever predatory dinosaurs are.
Right.
Looks like Dina, but huge, right?
Right.
But on 2 legs. Yeah. So a lot of them.
So,
mm-hmm,
yeah.
So a lot of them, especially like your rat types, so like your ostrich and things like that. Sorry, guys, I have absolutely no voice today. Those guys are direct descendants from dinosaurs, and like the cassowary, one of my favorite animals on the planet. Very much a dinosaur with feathers on it. But now we know dinosaurs did have feathers. Some of them anyway. Maybe not all of them, but some of the 2-legged ones. But that makes sense because they're bird cousins.
Right. Yeah. And they may have been more warm-blooded than, yeah. So
yeah.
I learned in school that dinosaurs turns out to be false.
I know. It kind of makes me sad, but it's cool. It's cool how much we're learning. I mean, things are just so quick to change. I guess that's every generation, but I feel like since now I'm older, like I can see, how other people, past generations must feel with all the technology and seeing our kids, what they're into, like coding and stuff like that is pretty cool.
Yeah. Like,
robots.
Like DNA sequencing. That was
yes.
And now like you can rewrite the sort of family tree mm-hmm. of species by comparing like how similar their genomes are.
Yeah, there's so much to learn, talk about. Yeah, owls are one of my favorites. Over the years, I worked with a few of them. They're all different. Owls are kind of like cats in their personality to work with anyway. So owls are kind of like the less motivated of the birds of prey. They're definitely more of a lazy bird. They do like to eat, but they're not as reactive to like movement and things like that because they're a little more cautious, I think, in nature. And as far as like getting them to, people ask us all the time, can he fly? Yes, he can fly. Does he fly on programs? No, he's just not that motivated because I think he would just fly away and go perch somewhere and just hang out. But I kind of like them because they're a little more, I don't know, it's just, they need less activity. They need less attention. You can kind of leave them for a few days and they're fine. Unlike some of the other birds where they need a lot of attention, a lot of special care. Not that he doesn't, but
well, you mentioned about like
they're a little bit easier in my opinion.
Like folks need to know what they're getting into with each
yes,
pet,
yes.
And I've heard that about birds. Like some birds, it's like they are your best friend and they are up in your business all the time.
So especially like a parrot. If you wanted a pet parrot, that's one of the most advanced pets in my opinion, even the little one. Especially if it's the only parrot you have, because they're going to need a lot of attention. They're very social. Owls are not like that. Owls definitely don't make good pets either. They're not pets at all. And nor are they legal pets, I don't think, in Texas. But definitely a much different personality than a parrot. We have several little parrots in our collection. I've worked with parrots over the years. Very hard to work with. They can be great, but noisy, messy, need a lot of things to do. Definitely get upset when you leave for a vacation, things like that. So a huge commitment. And most parrots live a long time, just like he can, right?
Yeah, they can live.
Not every bird lives a long time, but many of them do. What are you looking at? You're so silly. I'm gonna get it. There we go.
You guys just looks like so majestic. I mean, really, like that's yeah. And one thing I think about with like I think why like animal encounters are so important because like I think about like how like I mean people who follow me on social media, right? Like so like I'm Inga Cotton on my personal social media, but I'm always posting about like places we go and stuff we do as a family. And but like during the pandemic it was hard because like we couldn't go to like
definitely
the
hard
indoor places that we were used to going. So we wound up getting a state parks pass, going to state parks and the Greenway Trail system. So like those are our things. But I feel like all kids like they had their worlds got smaller, and then they used a lot of digital stuff to expand their worlds, but it's not the same. And
no, it's definitely not the same.
So it's like I'm glad that y'all are watching on YouTube and and like learning about these animals, but like it's really important to like go you just go to your neighborhood park and see what bugs you can see. You might find some butterflies, you might find bees or grasshoppers.
Yeah.
And like and if you could have like at your party at your neighborhood block party, or like at your after school program or something, like have the animals come. And like,
Yeah.
For young kids, like, if they just haven't had, this range of experiences before, like,
right.
It just, maybe it'll spark an interest in caring for animals. Maybe it'll spark an interest in like nature, evolution, like, why are the animals this way? Like, you never know what kind of questions it's gonna spark, but you need to like keep presenting kids with these unique experiences, and then something will take hold, and then
definitely
they'll
you
find
never know what could inspire them to change their life, or just progress their life where it's going. Yeah, definitely. I think in person is much different than virtually, for sure. Although virtual is great too. We got to get away from our screens sometimes, though.
Right.
And that's a habit we all need to get away from.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you can do virtual animal encounters. So
yes, true.
So my husband, he's very private, so I won't talk too much about him. So he manages a team that's remote. Like, so they have people in India, Singapore, they have people on the East Coast, West Coast.
Wow.
And they get together for conferences and stuff now and then. But like, so they have to get creative about like how to bond and like how to build team experience. Like they did a virtual cooking class one time.
We've done a few of those with the animals too, little animal presentations, or what we call animal therapy, even virtual animal therapy, so you can see them, get to know them. Well, but in person too.
when you're to be like, it's like as humans we get so busy with like, I have these errands to run, and these bills to pay, whatever, but like we always have to like kind of slow down and just be in awe of nature, because like whatever concerns we have, however big they feel, they're not that big, and when you think about how big the world is and just how amazing nature is.
That's why we need like vacations and like cultural, experiences and animal experiences. I feel like I'm holding him out of frame. Oh, somebody's asking what kind of owl it is. What kind of owl? Lisa's asking. He is a Eurasian eagle owl. That means they're from Eurasia. So Europe, Africa, and Asia. But Eurasia, Africa is too long of a word, I guess. So they went with Eurasian. So he's an eagle owl because he's not related to eagles. They're just really big. Believe it or not, the females are twice as big, so they would barely fit in this room or in frame. But the females are kind of what gives them the name, the eagle owl. And there's several species of eagle owl. This is the most common, called the Eurasian eagle owl, and they're kind of the most eagle-like in coloration as well. So, but there's other eagle owls in Africa. There's other eagle owls in other places. They're just big ones.
So your glove looks like something, it's protecting your hand. Right?
Indeed. He is not meaning to hurt me at all. In fact, he's barely even gripping. He's kind of a light-footed owl. I've worked with other owls that were very tightly footed, and you had to constantly kind of, because they make your hand fall asleep. He does that sometimes, but it's really just the position of your hand. But it's a very thick leather glove. It's actually kangaroo leather, believe it or not. So are his equipment. So his equipment is super strong as well. He's wearing leather anklets around his ankles. This is a type of owl, by the way, that has the feathery feet. That's because they're all season, so they would have to endure long winters and things like that. And he even has feathers on his eyelids as well. I'm not going to poke him in the eye or anything, but he's got feathers on his eyelids too. But these are super strong, because he would be able to, if it was not strong enough, he'd be able to break them. But they're anklets around his legs, and Jess's are kind of connected to those, and I've got them on a leash as well. But super thick leather gloves, super important for bigger birds of prey for sure. But this leather glove is actually strong enough to hold an eagle with. So I picked the biggest one, that way I have a safe experience with my owl. But he's actually very good. He's an imprinted animal. He came from another raptor center, actually, another facility, who was looking to kind of downsize during the pandemic, unfortunately. So they're more focused now on just rehab. But he's not a rehab bird. He's actually a foreign species, not from America. But he was raised, I believe in Colorado is where he was born. And then the Raptor Center in Kansas that purchased him for educational purposes a long time ago, because he's going to be 9 in a week, more or less. I think you saw himself on the screen over there. But he was intended for educational, so he was just an imprinted bird. So he was raised up. But not an injured bird. He's fully flighted, very healthy. Whoa, you've seen him trying to fly around this whole time. I know, there's that head rotation. Super cool.
Yeah.
But a lot of the birds of prey you'll see in zoos are rehabilitated. Maybe have an injury, maybe a missing eye, something like that. But he's actually a very gentle, he's never like tried to like foot me or anything like that. It's called footing when they go for it. This is their only weapon. So if he were to feel threatened by a predator, that's the only way that they can protect themselves. He's never done that to me. He's actually pretty chill.
So imprinting is that, like, once birds are born, it's like whatever they see, they think that's their.
At least they get comfortable with you.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's really true for every species. Some species like cranes and geese and ducks are very imprintable to where they definitely kind of think, oh, mom, you know, and that's because they're more of a what we call altricial. So that means when a bird is born, like a chicken or a duck or a crane, they're actually quite developed at birth. They're not like a little baby, kind of like, you know, eyes closed and bare, no feathers. Owls are actually pretty helpless when they're born. So they have no eyes open. They're more like a baby parrot. Like a parrot is born like that too. They're like super helpless. They're like a little, same thing. So they're going to be, all the birds of prey are very helpless. So that's what we call, oh my gosh, oh, you know what? I mixed them up. Let me think. Live. So altricial and precocial. So altricial is actually the kind that is like the owl, and precocial, which is like precocious, is like the chicken or the crane or the duck. So those guys are born and they're running around in no time. So those are the ones that are like looking for their mother right away. Yeah. So since they're born with their eyes open, I hope this makes sense.
Yeah.
They're like, must be my mom, so she's gonna protect me. So that's kind of their imprinting right away. Whereas these guys, since they are altricial, they're going to have their eyes shut for a while, but it's still a good thing to do when you're raising a bird that's going to be educational. That way they at least associate a human with like safety. Right. It's a food, it's a care, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
But altricial is the underdeveloped, precocial, more developed.
Right. Okay.
So one of the most altricial animals in nature is the kangaroo or the opossum. All the marsupials, they're born super helpless, right? Very like little, like put it back. Very premature.
Well, you mentioned about like in zoology, there's a lot of psychology to it.
There definitely is for training and stuff like that. That's another thing to think about. If you want to be a zoologist, you can work with animals that never need any training. But if you want to be like a zookeeper or animal trainer, there's definitely a lot of psychology with that. So every individual is different, like we talked about, and every species is different as well. But a lot of the training is going to be the same across the board. A lot of patience, a lot of trying to find their motivation, trying to find their reinforcer, etc. What they like, what they don't like.
Conditioning.
Yes, a lot of classical and other types of conditioning as well.
It's cool. Like, like I mean, like human psychology is so interesting, but like a lot of the early research about human psychology, they'll use animal models, right?
For
like
sure.
Operant conditioning,
for sure. Like Pavlov and all
that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, teaching birds like, oh, peck this, and then what reward do you get? And,
a lot of dogs, a lot of like pigeons and sparrows. I think they use as well. Owls, I don't think they use them. They're not as motivated. They don't eat as often.
Yeah, well, think about, like,
and they're big. Yeah.
Think about like at water parks, like the type of animals that who function there, right? It's like you know, like orcas or dolphins. Like those are like pack hunting
needy,
animals.
Social. Yeah.
Right. And like, you know, they're like wolves and dogs.
They want to do things. Yeah. And animals that are traditional, like pets, like dogs, cats. They at least like want your company, right? Some of the time anyway. But I mentioned before the owls, in my opinion, to work with, they're kind of like more like cats rather than dogs. They're kind of social, but kind of like leave me alone at the same time. And every owl's different. So he's a little more, I don't know how to describe him. He has his good days and his bad days. Some things will definitely trigger him. Like he doesn't like certain things. Usually he's fine anywhere we go, but he certainly doesn't like dogs. He doesn't like to see dogs in any capacity. So if we're in a park or something like that, he's like, absolutely not. He'll see a dog and just, you know, he has a reaction to it. Little things here and there, sounds, because their hearing is so good. Sometimes somebody will slam a door and he doesn't understand it and he'll react to that. Sometimes it's just random. So, but I mean, they are wild animals. Even though we train him, he's imprinted, he's still an animal at heart. So, and not a pet. So, not a domestic animal for sure.
Like, like my daughter's a huge Harry Potter fan.
Oh, cool! We do a lot of events with Harry Potter stuff.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I don't know, how hard would it be to actually train an owl to like carry a letter?
Super hard. So I don't work in movies, right? Or pretend to, but owls, I heard in the Harry Potter movies, were super difficult to train. They have like I don't know, like 5 owls for Hedwig, I think, or something. Just to, like, one would sit on the glove, one liked to be pet, one liked to fly back and forth, one actually carried stuff. So they all look the same, so thank goodness.
Right, so they could focus on like training one animal to do one
thing,
and then bring out a different animal to do a different behavior. That's creative.
That's actually pretty common in movies. So even with animals like dogs or horses that are really easy to train and social and domesticated, they usually do have at least like 2 to 3, just in case, or they need something specific done or whatever. Yeah. What are you looking at now? Your feather? It came from you.
That's part of what you guys do is like if someone's having an event that has a particular theme, right? So October creepy crawlies and then or Harry Potter.
Yes. Yeah. Harry Potter can be all year, which is great, but definitely October was the busiest month of the year because I mean it's creepy crawly time, which makes sense. Or owl time. People associate the owl with like, you know, October, Halloween, things like that. But honestly, all year, owls are good all year. Anyone that wants to hire us. So we don't just have creepy crawlies, by the way, if you're just joining us. We've got bunny rabbits, we've got guinea pigs, ducks, all kinds of cute animals as well.
Asked about Sandor.
Sandor the rabbit. The famous rabbit. He's 4 now. Wow. 4 years old.
He's huge.
Yeah, he is huge. We have 2 rabbits now.
Oh wow.
We have Sandor, who's like kind of like a reddish blonde color. He's called a fawn. And then we have Gregor, who's a black rabbit.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, guys, do you want to let our audience know anything else about the upcoming events or anything at all? Feel free to.
Yeah, I just want to
say whatever you want.
Yeah, like so SAChartermoms.com, and there's a tab with all the information about School Discovery Days, and you can register for the events. But also, we love welcoming people to our Facebook group. So it's SAChartermoms discussion group on Facebook. We have 12,000 members. And so you can draw on all the knowledge of those families as well. So, but yeah, we would love to see lots of folks come out to Confluence Park on November 11th.
Yes, definitely come on out. I'll try my best to be there if I can. If not, we'll have some team members out there, and some of our animals will be out there. Don't know who yet. Who indeed. But we'll definitely have some animals that you guys can hold and touch and at least look at out there. I think we lost our battery over there on Instagram, but that's okay. We're almost done anyway, so we'll hit that in a minute. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for being here in person, but thank you guys for joining us. We will replay the live stream as well, so you can watch it again, or you can go back and watch it again on your own if you like to. We're here live once a month on Once in a While, but Inga goes live quite often. Tell everybody about that.
Oh yeah, that's right. So so we at usually about 4 p.m. Central Time, and usually on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but sometimes other days as well. So we'll feature a particular school network because we're in open enrollment season. So last week yesterday was Jubilee, and it was on Halloween, and so we all had costumes. So we had Grover, and we had the White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland, and I had a crown on. I was a queen.
Nice.
So, yeah. So, but yeah, and those are. About a school, having that conversation, like tuning into a conversation about it, like you really get that vibe, and it gets you thinking about like, oh, and they talked about like they have a great culinary program. So anybody who wants to be a chef, like they have a great program. So can
feed the world after that.
Yeah. All these possibilities. Yeah. Right. And you could be an animal chef. You could.
Yes, that's definitely a thing. Right? Yeah, being a zookeeper, you're definitely prepping a lot of diets. I do that a lot for sure. Well, very good. Well, thank you again. I hope that we accomplished everything you wanted to today on the live stream. Definitely check out the School Discovery Days coming up, you guys. There's several of them coming up. Go to her website, social media. Remind everybody where that is again.
Yes.
Really quick.
Okay. So SAChartermoms.com. And then we've got a tab about School Discovery Days. We also have like a list of schools. We have kind of a quick start guide. Lots of information about schools and about enrichment, like Once in a While.
Oh, very good.
And then we are at SAChartermoms on Facebook, Instagram,
Simple
X.
enough.
We're on YouTube.
It's a great name. Very easy. Okay, you guys. Well, thank you so much. And I guess we'll go ahead and close. We're going to play our song to close. Oh, we have one more question. By the way, if you guys have more questions, feel free to contact us. Our information can be found at onceinawild.com. If you guys want to hire us for your classroom visits or birthday parties or anything at all, please let us know. You can request a call back, or you can text or call us directly if you want to. And our social media is at Once in a Wild or at Once in a Wild Zoo over on Instagram and TikTok, it's at Once in a Wild Zoo. Otherwise, at Once in a Wild. And I'm sure if you Google it, you can find it anyway. And somebody was asking, how much does he weigh? He weighs about 4 pounds. A male can weigh anywhere from 3 to 5 pounds, and a female can weigh up to 10 pounds. So 8 to 10 for a girl, maybe a little less sometime. But anyway, you guys have been a great audience out there. Thank you for watching. Thanks again to Inga and SACharter moms for joining us. And we'll see you guys next time.
We are nothing close to ordinary, but we love to be your friend. Hold our hands and let's have fun together, singing as loud as you can. Everybody singing once in a while. Together. Once in a while. I wanna hear you say once in a while. Never fun for me and you.
All right, everybody. See you next time.